Hi everyone, welcome back to Comic Book Corner. I'm Dan Delatorre. Thanks for joining us this evening. Today I'm going to fulfill a promise to a few of you who asked for this, and that is to look at the DC universe. I'm known mostly as a Marvel guy, and I'm still a Marvel guy, but when I was a child, I started with Superman, Batman, and all the rest of it. When I was a kid, not Christopher Reeve was Superman, George Reeve was Superman. Adam West was always Batman, and my favorite when I was in kindergarten, first grade, was the Flash, the Red Flash. I always loved that character. Sadly, I never did get hold of Showcase 4. That's an extremely expensive book that is now out of my price range. But I do have a number of DC books here, although there's a number of things to talk about. So let's get right into it because there's a number of very important things to say. Let's talk about DC itself before we get into the books that I have here in my pile. This one I brought out a few times. I'm going to bring it out again for another reason here. Absolute Batman #1. The speculation is from people like Sith Lordly, a friend of mine, and David from Comic Book Investments. They're using the conventional wisdom that at some point, the hot element of this book will taper off. Now, they may be correct. They may be exactly right, and conventional wisdom would suggest that. However, if you look at things in a different way, as I do. I try to look one or two steps forward. DC is a company, it's an entertainment company. Their job is to make money, and they need to make, whether it's comics or movies or animation, whatever, that grabs your attention, and you pay money to either buy these, you pay for the commercial time, if it's an animated show, whatever. This is a hot topic. This is one of the hottest things they've ever done, and I've said before, in my 50 plus years of collecting, I've never seen something like this, where there are plentiful prints of these. People are still wanting to pay hundreds of dollars and maybe more. Now, there's been a naming from DC that they are going to produce an animated series. That added excitement to this, and the comics themselves are still very much hot and desirable. If it stops there, that's one thing. And then the conventional wisdom of my friends and associates might be correct. But again, think about DC. This is a hot item. They want to continue to make money at this. The next logical step, if the animated series looks good and the comic books continue to sell, a motion picture. I have no. This is complete speculation. There's been no announcement, nothing whatsoever. I'm the first to even suggest this. But it makes sense, doesn't it? If they want to continue to keep this hot item hot and continue to make money, a DCU picture is not out of the realm of possibility. And if that's true, this spikes even further. And especially if they can get the right people, not James Gunn. I'll talk about him in a second. But I just want to throw this out. And again, you can call me an influencer or whatever you want. I'm just an older collector, and I try to put two and two together and look one or two steps above. So if you want to sell this, if you have it, that's your business. Again, I don't tell you what to do. I just present possibilities, and that's certainly a very realistic possibility. Let's talk about the DC universe for a second. Let me be very careful with this very expensive book here. Put you down. There we go. James Gunn is flailing. I've been a critic of James Gunn from the very get-go. The only time I sang his praises was I was on the Comic Book Canon show a few years ago. That's when the Superman movie came out. And I was a cynic, the big cynic. I was never a big fan of the Guardians of the Galaxy movie. They were okay. First of all, the Guardians of the Galaxy back to Marvel was barely a third-rate team. Why he decided to use that, I don't know. I was not looking forward to Guardians of the Galaxy 2 and 3. 3 was actually pretty good. But it's James Gunn himself. He has a very unique style and approach to things, and when he was named by Zaslav, who's in charge of the DC universe, that he'd be the main director, main producer, and all that, I said, look, maybe he's gained some fame and notoriety, and that's fine. I don't want to take that away from him, but can such a person be a Kevin Feige? And the answer is no. Now, when the Superman movie came out, it was actually pretty good. I was very much entertained, with one exception. The end of the movie, when Supergirl shows up as this drunk lush. And that told me immediately, I'm not going to see the Supergirl movie. And I haven't. And it bombed spectacularly. And it was an obvious bomb because of James Gunn's approach. And now this Lanterns, they can't even say Green Lantern. The Lanterns movie came out. That was a hot mess. Gunn was all over the place, and whoever else produced it, they tried to emulate in a way the show True Detective. That was the HBO series, which by the way was fabulous. That was who was that? Matthew McConaughey, and I forget the other actor. I can see him. He was from Cheers. That was a fabulous series. The first series was dynamite. But we didn't want that series. I wanted the Green Lanterns series. I wanted the characters that we all grew up in love with as a child. Now, Gunn probably will be fired. He should be. I mean, he's just horrible at this sort of thing. And it's worse than even I thought. But that depends on Zaslav, who's in charge of the whole thing. And I don't know if they're mixing and matching it at DC. But again, this goes back to my speculation. If they have the absolute Batman series, which is a hot item, and with the right, maybe even Scott Snyder himself, who probably should be producing it if they go down that road, DC needs a winner. They need a hit on their hands desperately. That would be a hot item. That could be a hit if all the pieces come into place. But right now, they are struggling. And it's sad because years ago I had thought, and I think I said so on the other shows that I was on, that it might be time to get into DC keys. Marvel keys, there's still room for a lot of those, but a lot of the DC universe is not explored because they have the wrong people to helm. They don't have a Kevin Feige. They don't have an MCU. And all the people, that are putting all these wonderful movies together, and I know a lot of the Marvel movies aren't perfect, but they are still by far leading the way. So we'll see what goes on. Anyway, let's get to the DC keys here, DC Comics. Let's open this one right now, and I should. Where's my scissors here? See if I can do this in quick order here. I hate when people do this and they take forever to open the damn thing. This is from Mickey Swaggelhaus. I bought this at his claim sale, and I was wanting this book for a while, and finally found it, and for a good price. And let's see if we can just do this very, very quickly. Got the Gemini mailer, specially made for comics here. There it is. Oh, don't put too much tape on. I always hate when people put too much tape on things. It's like, I know you want to pack it. I know you want to make certain it's secure and all that. But some people really overdo it. Mickey did a fine job with this one here. He did a really fine job. Now, this was a book I had my eye on. I was on another show with Hyper Combo Comics. And we talked about this. And and I like Hyper. He's a very smart young man. I need to reach out to him again for another reason. All right, here we go here. I have yet to read it, obviously. I've never owned this book before. But this is Batman number 200. The 200th issue here. And I've heard a number of good things about this. So I'm looking forward to reading this here. But I got it for about $40. I really wanted this book. And this only book I bought that's the only money I had at the time for his auction. But this one grabbed my attention. So I'm delighted to finally have this in my collection. Looking forward to reading this. All right, let's put everything carefully over here. I've got so many damn piles. I'm not practicing when I'm preaching. When I preach, put all your toys away. I've got all my comics in piles, and that's when things go wrong, guys. So in no particular order here, let's start with, I was delighted to get this. Shout out to Nando Knight. Nando is he's a dealer, but a very smart man, very fair, extremely fair. And I was at one of his sales, and I saw this, and I simply couldn't say no. And I believe this is Dick Sprang art. One of you asked me this morning, who would be the Mount Rushmore of artists? And I said, Bill Finger, Dick Sprang, who I think this is, and Robinson was the other one? Pardon me. And I did say, notice that I did not say Bob Kane. Bob Kane, because I learned afterwards what a shyster he was. He created the concept of Batman, but it was Bill Finger that put the entire package together. Bill Finger was the real genius behind the whole thing. Bob Kane was a sales guy. He would find artists, he would find writers, put that together and sell it to DC. DC at the time didn't care where it came from. They just wanted comics to sell. But I love this cover here, and this is Detective Comics number 136. I think this is from 1945, 44. Yeah, this is definitely a golden age, but By the way, this is a classic cover in the sense where they reused this cover for a Batman comic in the 50s. It wasn't unusual to recycle the comic covers. They did this a few times in Batman. They did this in Marvel comics. But you gotta just love this. And to have a golden age, this is the only golden age Batman that I have of Detective Comics. This is just great. It was really, really interesting story. Just good old fashioned cops and robbers story. But I'm still delighted to have that. If we could shift gears it's still DC technically. There was another company called Fawcett, and they created something called a character named Captain Marvel. And there was a lawsuit, if you don't know the story, where Superman, Action Comics and all that with DC, and then Captain Marvel, Shazam with Fawcett. Fawcett was actually outselling DC, believe it or not. The reason why is I have some of these things, the stories were better. The stories were better, no question about it. So what happened was the bigger company DC sued Fawcett for Captain Marvel being too close to Superman. And it was an outrage because, Fawcett didn't have the money to fight it. They lost the lawsuit. They lost their greatest income, which was Captain Marvel. But anyway, speaking of Golden Age, I've got this here. This is very, very cool. And I don't do this very often unless there's a reason for it. If you can't afford the entire book, excuse me, try not to sneeze here. Oh, okay, good. You can get a page. And I saw this, and I paid about $4.50 for it. And this is from Marvel Family #1, and this is the origin and first appearance of the Black Adam. That's why I got this book here. So I'll see if I can show it. Here he is with the wizard, brings him forward here, says, "I'm going to make you Mighty Adam." That was his first name, by the way. And it's got the rest of his story on this one page, front and back, whereas the wizard punishes him for abusing his power that he was given. He was sent off into space. So anyway, this is super cool to have. I don't do these very often. I would do it for like an Amazing Fantasy 15 if Spider-Man was on, or a Hulk one, and those are a bit pricey. And that's, if you're at a certain tier, that's where you're kind of down to. I can't afford. This is like $4,000 or $5,000 for the actual Marvel Family book, which I have a reprint, but to get this is very, very cool. Yeah, that's very cool to have the first appearance of Black Adam. So that's from that. And then we move from that one to something that all of you can get, which I got. It wasn't all that expensive. His second appearance in Shazam #28. First appearance, second appearance. That's very, very cool. Now there's talk that not talk. Black Adam character did show up in a book previous to this, about 10 years earlier, I think. For whatever reason, they're saying that's technically not this second appearance, and I forget the title of it is, but CGC is saying this is Black Adam's second appearance. So this I would get your hands on. I would like to get a raw copy too. Definitely want to get a raw copy to see what they did here, because that fascinates me. But I'm just, again, when you're on a budget, you do the best you can to put things together. And again, I'm just delighted. Now, as I said before, there was, even I thought it might be time, this is about 3 years ago or so, that it might be time to speculate on DC if they got their act together. You still can, but who knows if and when the DC universe ever gets their act together. Right now, the answer is no. The universe is, but the books are pretty cheap. And I got this one extremely cheaply, and I showed this before, but we're talking about DC. So I want to show these again. And this is an EGS grade. And I got this at a LCS, maybe an hour from my house. It was out in Walnut Creek, and just sitting up on the wall there. I thought, is that what that is? And yeah, it was $30 or so I got this for. Had it graded by EGS, and I got a 5.5 white pages for this. And that's All-Star Comics #58, First Power Girl. I don't have many first appearances for DC. This is one of them, and I'm delighted to have it. And I got a nice one. And again, didn't cost me much, for under $100, including grading, by the way. I got this really, really nice key. So that's one I would keep an eye on. I haven't looked to see what the prices are for all that, but keep a sharp eye. Let's go to the next one here. I got another slab here, another EGS slab. And that is Jack Kirby when he left Marvel. And it was a huge controversy back in 1970. And he went to work for DC. DC was delighted to have him. They made a big to-do. I think they promoted the whole thing. And they let, basically, Jack Kirby do what he wanted to do. He was a genius. Well, he was pardon me, not a genius. He was literally, obviously one of the best artists we've ever had. He had a very different spin regarding his writing, though. But he wanted to be, he was fascinated with the godlike powers. Hence Galactus, that was his brainchild. He and Stan Lee put that together. But this one here, I also grabbed for a very inexpensive cost here, and it's Marvel, the Forever People #1. And so that was Jack Kirby creation. It came out in 1971. So again, didn't pay much for it. I think I paid $50 at my LCS here in Santa Rosa, and then had it graded. So got a nice 7.5 out of it. This, I think, is one of the ones you want to keep an eye on, because again, DC owns the rights to whatever Jack Kirby did in those years that he was there. It wasn't there all that long. But again, the Forever People, that's something they could do if they had the right writers and all that. My point is, there's a ton of potential with DC. There always has been. They just, again, they're like a losing baseball team. You love the team, but you hate the front office, because the front office makes all these stupid decisions. Here's another one I got from Tony. I was shocked to get this grade out of it, but I bought this off the rack, read it a few times extremely carefully, and this is something that had several printings, so it's worth it just for the storyline here. And this is The Killing Joke #1, first print, and I got it in 9/8 white pages. So the only 9/8 that I got, well, I've got a few 9/8s from EGS, but this is only one I got that Tony submitted it, and it is gorgeous. It's a gorgeous book. So these square-bound books, if you read them very, very carefully, which I didn't, you can easily fold the thing over because it's square-bound and all that. I didn't do that. So got a nice white pages out of this one. This came out right after, what was it? Not The Killing Joke. It was, The Dark Knight Returns. That was Frank Miller's series that he did. Fabulous series, by the way. And that gained a lot of notoriety and popularity. So this came out afterwards. Who wrote this? Alan Moore. I'm not familiar with Alan Moore, but again, this isn't all that expensive. I'd always go for the first print. If you want a second, third print, that's totally fine. That's your business. But I'm a first print guy. I do have, speaking of the Absolute Batman, where's the other one here? I don't want to show them both or one at a time individually. I had these in order, guys, before I came out. There it is. Like I said, the Absolute Batman series is still hot, and I do have one that's also a bit pricey, Absolute Batman 2 and 3. I should put these in Mylar. I will at some point, but just want to let you know that I do have them. These are the only modern books I've ever bought and actually appreciated, because, as I said, for those that don't know, I've told you guys of my background, half a century of collecting, and I have good instincts. And when I was at the San Diego Comic-Con in 2024, they got me. They got my attention, where no one else ever does. And my instincts are good, and I knew that would be a hot issue, and it's still a hot issue. So I was right about that. And again, I knew this because of my instincts. And so that's why I brought up that speculation as I brought up at the beginning of the broadcast. A few more here. Let's see. Oh, here's that reprint of Marvel Family. If I had the money, I'd buy it. About $4,000 for this one, or more, depending on how good the condition is. But I don't mind getting reprints. You get to see the whole story and all that, because there's more to the story for Black Adam and all that. That's why I got this. What did I pay for this? $10. Yeah, not bad. Let's rattle off some Flash comics, as I told you that was my favorite here. And I'm behind on reading. I've read a few of them, or at least tried to. The thing with the DC stories, and I may alienate some of you, and I don't mean to. They're just not me. The writing is different. The style is different. Everything about it is different, and it just doesn't. I don't know. It just doesn't grab me. because a lot of them are one-off stories. There's no saga or ongoing series or whatever, ongoing storyline. The artwork's cool. It's very, very cool. So it's just in no particular order. Here's Flash 129. This is cool about this one here. You've got Flash in World 1 and World 2 in this same comic here. That's cool. That grabs my attention. You know, when you have a lot of villains and heroes in the same comic, that's always a winning combination. That grabbed my attention. Not you. This one was interesting here. Kind of an espionage type cover. And that's Flash 183. Let me know if you have any of these, if you've read them. I thumbed through them and I did a little preview. I try to do my research before coming on the show to give you some sort of idea of what you have to look out for. This was cool. This was what do they call that? Breaking the third wall. Where the Flash is on the cover saying, "Stop! Don't pass up on this issue. My life depends on it." So he's literally making an appeal to you, the reader, to buy this book to save his life. I thought that's cool. Just all by itself, it's very, very cool. Black cover, not easy as you know to get in high grade. Kind of a fun story, a little bit offbeat story. And as I said, the writing style, these were done at the same time that Marvel was doing their Silver Age stuff. Silver Age stuff is just dynamite, especially a lot of the Stan Lee stories. Well, all the Stan Lee stories, and the bullpen. He had a talented bullpen. These guys are just different, and I'm not saying they're bad stories. They're just different. Maybe I'm just not used to them. And again, I loved. Again, this was my first love, the Red Flash. And as I said before, I was a kid on a budget. I didn't have a lot of money, so I had to make a decision when I was a kid, either DC or Marvel. I just went to Marvel. And I'm still with Marvel to this day. So anyway, but I am gathering some DC comics here. Here's one last Flash here that I'll profile for you today. I love this cover. And I got this because I was on Spinetix. And this was their, their cover thing. And it was this here, and it's Flash number 153. And it's the Flash knocking Professor Zoom into the future. Just great cover. Story was okay. I like Professor Zoom. I like the interaction with these two. And I've got, this won't be the only DC episode that I'll profile. I've got lots more DC books here. But again, I don't want to overload you with this. But I love this cover. It's a really, really nice condition. This is, if I did pressing and cleaning and slabbing, I would do it for this one. It's really, really nice. I just, before getting on the show, I put it in Mylar. It was in that damn stuff that Kamikaze uses. I don't know why. But no, this was fun. This is a lot of fun. Let's go with, this is probably the last one I'm going to show today. People make fun of Aquaman. I don't know why. I have no problem with Aquaman. He's become the butt of a lot of jokes of late. But this is a cool one here, and I kind of like the premise of this whole thing. This is Aquaman number 30. The apparent death of Aquaman. Gorgeous cover. Come on. I mean, who doesn't get a little emotional just even thinking about the possibility that Aquaman died? Now, there's one book I absolutely want, and it's because of the Super Friends. When I was a kid, Super Friends was that was the comics. That was the animated series. Because Marvel didn't have much. They had some. I take it back. They had their own animated stuff, but it was really cheesy. Animation. At least they had decent animation. The stories were good. Black Manta, the arch enemy of Aquaman. The voice it was a cool ass voice. It just was. It was a modulated voice, and it really grabbed me. And I wanted to see more of him, versus Aquaman. And his first appearance of Black Manta isn't that expensive. So one of these days it will be in this collection here, but. That's the Aquaman book, so I thought that was very, very cool. Everyone, that's it for today. Let me know what you think about anything I mentioned. I rattled off a lot of things today about speculation of Absolute Batman, a possible movie. And again, I'm based on nothing. I don't want to be one of those influencers saying, "Oh, I heard a rumor somewhere." No, I'm just putting two and two together. If DC, which is an entertainment company, wants to make money. They've got a moneymaker right here if they can continue to capitalize on it. That's why I think the logical conclusion would be they're going to keep promoting more. They want to keep the comic book sales going. The animated series will help that, assuming they do that correctly. And if that works, they may go to a DC universe, but not with James Gunn. And with the spec, again, I'm only bringing up the possibility that maybe someday, not today, and it may be years down the road. Well, pardon me, it has to be years down the road because James Gunn and is it Peter Zasloff? Zasloff is his last name. Neither one of those guys should be in charge of the DCU until they're gone. You know, you're going to have nothing but mediocrity for a while. But there's always an upside to everything. That means the keys that even I wanted to speculate on, and I don't have it. I was going to show you. DC Presents 26, first appearance of the new Teen Titans. Well, here, I take it back. I do have an old Teen Titans here. Yeah, this one here. There you go. This is an older Teen Titans, but they revitalized the series. And I'm sorry I don't have it in front of me, but that I equate to the argument can be made that could be the DC's version of Giant Size X-Men 1. They revitalized the team. It was the first appearance of Raven, first appearance of Cyborg, and the first appearance of Raven. No, Raven, Starfire, and Cyborg. Those are three first appearances. Again, there's a very similarity to Giant Size X-Men 1. And I'll show it to you, and I'll be embarrassed to tell you how much I paid for it. It was a stupid move on my part, but there's a lot of possibility. This is one of these things, guys. So we'll see. Anyway, you know, I will do a follow-up on this. I'm looking at a more DC comics that I have, and we'll talk about those in short order, but I think that we've already gone as long as I want to go today. So do you have any of these keys? Anything you want to see that I might look into, or any suggestions whatsoever? Thank you for all your wonderful comments. You guys are just wonderful. Whether you agree with what I'm promoting or not, that's totally fine. I want to hear your opinion. So everyone, as always, thanks for joining. For what is my network here? I'm getting so old I can't remember. The SBC Network, Silver, Bronze, and Copper. How can I forget that? For the SBC Network, I'm Dan De La Torre, and this is Comic Book Corner.